Our very first webinar for the evaluation use and influence TIG. Uh, we have had a lot of, I guess, ups and downs in this TIG since about just before the pandemic. And so we are excited about getting back on track. So I want to thank the Blue Marble Productions for helping us offer this and have the technology to do it. My name is Susan Tucker. I'm the co-chair of this TIG, and I'll be introducing our leadership team in a bit. If we move on to the next screen, I just wanted to go through the goal of today and our two strategies, basically. One, our goal is that we want to align our mission, the use and influence mission, with AEA's upcoming conference theme. And the way we're proposing to do it today is to use a panel discussion, as well as to have breakout groups so each of us can explore certain topics. Specifically, there's been some confusion in the past. We haven't been, as a challenge for us to be clear on what use and influence means. Hence, we have fabulous founding members of this TIG who have continued to do a lot of research and development in this field. And I'd like to have them really help shape our understanding of that again. And then to talk a bit about the conference itself. There's some shifts going on in AEA in how TIGs are forming into clusters. And I just want to give a bit of a background on that and have our panel discussants help us explore some compelling proposal topics. And then the breakout groups will let us explore some networking strategies. On the next screen, I wanted to go into the theme itself, which is amplifying and empowering voices in evaluation. That covers a very broad tent. So that gives us a lot of room to explore some topics. Our mission is quite wordy. It's basically committed to an understanding and enhancing the use of evaluation in a variety of contexts. So we're going to look at that and break that down a bit more. And then the next screen really gives us a sense, if we can move on to that, of all these topics that we list on our website. And I just try to do kind of pulling up the core words here to give you a sense of the possibilities for proposals. The next screen is just getting into the panel discussion. We're going to be focusing on three questions. What about our TIG's mission resonates with each of the speakers? And then how does use and influence fit into their particular work? And what are compelling UNI topics that they see would be powerful for our upcoming program? So without further ado, I'm going to ask our speakers, who need no introduction, Michael Patton and Valerie Caricelli, to first of all, let's go with the first question. What about our TIG's mission resonates with you for this particular upcoming conference?
May I speak?
Sure.
Okay, great. Because this is an example, right? This actual meeting is an example of how this resonates to me. Having Charmaine Campbell Patton here and her father here, it's just a beautiful thing. When I was looking back at last year's program, it was to really bring new voices, our future into the dialogue, into discussing these topics with us. And so we're about to do that. I think that this particular theme for the conference also invites a rather international group. I'm thinking of the IOCE, Eval Partners, the Young Emerging Evaluators. So we have some youth people who could contribute to the conversation there. The VOPEs, the voluntary organizations for professional evaluation, that the local affiliate that I am with, the Washington Evaluators, is also a VOPE. And also, for the past 6 years, we have been having a conference where we are mentoring students in the local universities. George Washington University, Kathy Newcomer, who was a president of AEA, American University, George Mason University, Howard University, Veronica Thomas. We are the mentors. The students actually run the conference. We're about to have our sixth at the end of April. And I love that Karen is here today because we're also thinking about this issue of our own voices, right? And how we are able to be, do we have anything to say for this new generation? I think so. And what I love is that evaluation, and I'll stop in a minute, has enough, we have grown to appreciate cultures, other ways of knowing. The indigenous way of knowing tells me that elders will be respected and also be part of this whole generational change. So I'll stop there.
Thank
Sorry.
you. I appreciate that. And, as we're going through after the first question, as we're trying to break this down, if you have some comments, please put it in the chat or questions that you want to probe deeper. Michael, what would be your response to that question about how the mission resonates with AEA's theme?
So greetings, everyone. And let me begin by acknowledging and celebrating that today is International Women's Day. And I just returned. I spent the week in Washington, D.C. At the fourth conference on environment and evaluation at the Global Evaluation Facility, which is part of the World Bank, which for 25 years has had as its executive directors white males, and taking over in 2 weeks is the new executive director, who is Geeta Batra, who will be the first woman and the first representative of the Global South to head the evaluation office, the independent evaluation office of a major United Nations agency. And so that conference, a major topic was about the voices of people from the Global South, decolonizing evaluation, inclusion, asking the question, who's not at the table? And all of that was couched in the frame of how that affects use. Who's present, who determines what the questions are, who's not present, who's left out, how that affects what the questions get asked, and what happens to the findings afterwards. So it's clear that use remains an issue. Interestingly, one of the examples of this was all the heads of the major evaluation units were there, of the UN system. It was held at the World Bank, so the Independent Evaluation Office of the World Bank itself was represented, and the associate director there is a woman who's just begun 6 months ago. And EFAD from Rome, the World Food Program there. So all the evaluation offices. And one of the issues that they talked about in the panel was not only the challenge of their involving voices at the front end to determine questions, because they really pretty much ask the questions the board wants to ask, but they've under increasing pressure and trying to figure out and have a very bad track record of taking results back to the countries from which they come, and even more so back to the communities within countries from which the results come. And so a big issue then in amplifying voices is the importance. I'd say there's both the front end side, how do we involve people in the front end, but on the back end, where much of evaluation is still limited by simply producing reports and thinking that's the end of the evaluation, and not doing the follow-up, not taking the findings back to communities, not processing them with people. And that was a lot of what was getting talked about at this conference. And it's very much in keeping with the theme.
Thank you, Michael. Karen raised a question. Maybe, Karen, can you expand on that a bit about, you said we need to be careful about focusing on more use and focus on just use. Can you just give a minute or so on that? And I know we could spend all hour just on that question.
Yeah, excuse me. Good morning. I was reacting to the enhance use clause in the mission statement, and just wanted to put a pin in that to say that I mean, historically, that's what it was all about. Early Alkin and all of that, more use, get noticed, get it in play, so to speak. But I think recent events and current circumstances call us to realize that just more information is not really the goal, rather considering validity of the information, and also, as Michael was saying, how it's communicated back and to whom. So that I think we just need to balance those two and sort of pair the idea of enhanced, greater use with greater circumspection on the ways in which it's being used for positive or for negative.
I think it's a very powerful comment, and it builds on what both the speakers were saying. I think that whole idea also is, those of you that have yet to do your first proposal to our TIG, it's a powerful topic for us to consider in the ongoing conversations that we have. Let's go into the second one, because I think sometimes when we're applying it right now gives us even more concrete ways to explore ultimately the topic. How does use and influence fit into your work right now? I know you guys are involved from both international as well as domestic work, and at the federal level, in Val's case at the GAO. So Michael, why don't you go first here, and then Val go second.
This example of the conference I was just at is a lot of the work of Blue Marble evaluation, and Charmaine and I are working on a new edition of developmental evaluation, principles-focused evaluation, are always under the umbrella of utilization-focused evaluation. But much of what coheres around that and was central in the conference is breaking down the silos in which the world operates, programs and plans, to integrate more in the context of the poly crisis, multiple overlapping crises, increasing inequality and inequities in the world, violence, the pandemic, climate change, loss of species and biodiversity, that the ways in which systems are affected, and coming to understand how we both evaluate systems change and use information around systems change, our units of analysis are changing. And the ways in which systems evaluation are conceptualized and used is very different than the way that project evaluations are conceptualized and used. So much of the work that I'm involved in and with Charmaine is around the implications of systems transformation as a different kind of challenge for both how we do evaluation and how we use it.
Thanks. Val?
Hi, thanks. It's always hard to follow Mike, Michael, because he always has some pearls of wisdom that are beyond my little world here. But my little world, I'll talk from the federal perspective of GAO. I had, here's an example of the value of evaluation to them. Okay, so the director of our unit says evaluation plays a critical role in ensuring that programs achieve their intended outcomes, make efficient use of resources, and contribute to the betterment of society. Evaluation work fosters transparency, accountability, data-driven decision-making. Hold that thought, because I'm going to come back to it later in a subsequent question. But evaluation is very important at GAO. We work for the Congress. We are at their behest. We are the research arm. So I still think that the basic questions are the ones we still need to answer. Is that program designed optimally? Is it operating as it intended? Is it working? And if applicable, will it scale up? Will we be able to do more with what we've got? I always remember when I first came to GAO, a little later, they issued a report, and it's called Improving the Information Flow to Congress. And I just wanted to share the findings of that report because they always stay in my mind. We did work on 3 programs: comprehensive child development, community health centers, elementary and secondary education. Now, what happened in the findings of that was that there's a great deal of useful information that we collected, but a lot of the information was not requested. It did not reach the committee. Information that was requested did reach the committee, but much of it was difficult to digest, too highly aggregated, received too late to be useful. Communication between the committee and the agency staff on information issues was limited and afforded little opportunity to build a shared understanding of the committee's needs and how to meet them. And that's, now that we are launched into the Evidence Act with all of this opportunity for evaluation, we still have to get to the basics of understanding what the needs are out there and how we communicate that information. So I could probably stop there. There are very many wicked problems. I think we did at GAO's 100th anniversary. I had a set of managers come and contribute to the blog, the AEA 365. And there they give a number of examples of reports that really touch on, important issues that they try to deal with, as Michael says, in terms of the systems, human trafficking and the opioid epidemic. It just goes on and on of things that are very relevant for us to be thinking about. But also, there's reports, there's use, and then there's the influence. And I just worry a little bit that we need to do more in terms of understanding how we get that influence going, because we have problems that can't wait the 20 years for our old enlightenment to kind of take effect. We have to figure out how to really understand these issues now.
Let me jump in and add that GAO and Valerie and her former boss, one of our founders, Eleanor Chalimsky, brought to influence in a major way the way in which evaluation can shape legislation and shape policy, what came to be called prospective evaluation. So we began really thinking about use as what happens after you have findings. And the work has moved, and this was very much present in this conference I was just at, the way in which evaluation learnings, past evidence, lessons learned are influencing new designs, new policies up front before there even are programs. And that's a major shift. And Eleanor Chalimsky was one of the major people who brought about that shift. And she commented to me in an interview I did with her shortly before she died that she remembers the first time that the congressional committee considering legislation invited GAO to come and testify about what they already knew that would influence that legislation, influence up front. And we heard a lot of that in this conference about influencing new programs, new plans, new design, moving use from a back end to a front end activity.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks, Val. A couple of questions. John, you want to share and explore your question a bit more? John Black?
Yeah, I'm here, guys, and I don't want to derail your timings on this. It was more just for the chat. And I had attended the last AEA conference, and I come from a systems background, complexity, wicked problems, all that other kind of stuff. What's interesting is I deal with the one little oval on your top left of your first slide that says justice. And I find it curious because I find a lot of stuff I deal with is the concept of evaluation, for the most part, almost non-existent in a lot of those spheres. And so again, I'm just following along and seeing where it is, and I just see a lot of Voltaire, judge a man by his questions, not by his answers.
I
And
love that. Yeah, that's
and I
fabulous.
think yeah, and I think the power of this is, and I'm just sketching notes from Michael, is even just the focus of how do we often talk in missed opportunities. Well, that mindset comes from a mindset of a competition. If we talk about, how about if you just frame it as what questions have we missed? Now we get into who's sitting at the table. And we get to stay upstream of trying to solve something, and we focus on understanding. And I'm spending a lot of time in that, so I appreciate the moments, but that's where that was coming from.
Thanks, John.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's go into the next question about what, for both Michael and Val, what are you seeing as some compelling topics that those of us that are in this webinar and in our TIG might be really valuable to consider for the 2024 program? Val?
Sure. I was glad that Michael mentioned Eleanor, of course, and that other report that I was talking about was certainly under her guidance. And the quote that I gave before about just what was evaluation, that was done by Chat GPT. Okay, so it wasn't even a quote that he didn't turn around and say, "You're in the Center for Evaluation Methods and Issues. How would you have me describe what evaluation is?" He just went online, went to chat, got an answer, and then displayed it to our unit. So here we have talk about futures, right? So when I already know that one of the slides you have is going to be on AI, but artificial intelligence, we've just had an NDE volume on it, and there's the good, and hopefully, I'm sure there's concerns about misuse for that. Don't know what the ugly is yet. We'll probably learn about that, but that would be, of course, one topic. Technology, it is under technology. I think that there are many ways that we can reach people that we couldn't reach before. I think the pandemic has even, look, we're reaching each other now in ways that we didn't do. We had to wait for the conference to get together. So there's a lot going on that's amazing. Even when I think about where I work, I mean, I haven't even tuned into some platforms that they use to disseminate their information to be sure that it gets out there to people. So, as I said, more on influence. And I'm glad you think that that's there. We have an actual whole unit devoted to that, Michael, trying to see what the future holds and what kinds of things we have to attend to. So I'll just, back to basics is still my message. Anyway.
Okay, Val. Michael?
We're clearly facing major issues around misinformation and disinformation. One of the threads in the use TIG has been misuse. And that is very much an ascendant issue everywhere. AI may accelerate it because there's so much that it's drawing on that's inaccurate. And so it puts us in the arena of dealing not just with what we find, but what are the distortions of what we find, how the things that we do get cherry picked, and that's accelerated. I mean, I've experienced over the years and just never felt I wanted to take it on because it would take over my life. But having people misquote me, take sections out of paragraphs or sentences out of a book that lose the context. For example, in the in discussing randomized controlled trials, one of the ways you write about something like that is to say, here are the ways people advocate for randomized controlled trials. So I've been quoted with that paragraph and then saying, see, this is how Michael Quinn Patton supports randomized controlled trials, when the following paragraph is all about how that's wrong. And so misinformation and disinformation, misuse of evaluation is one of the things that it's worth paying attention to. And inappropriate use, overuse of evaluation, in fact, has also become an issue, using it too much when the evidence isn't that good. So we're becoming more, I think, more sophisticated about the challenges of evaluation use and misuse. And that's something to pay attention to in a world of massive disinformation and misinformation.
Thanks, Michael. And talking about massive, as these databases and our capacity for information keeps increasing, I just think about all the good questions as well as those questions that need to be examined further. We keep growing this huge parking lot, and I don't know how we mine the parking lot, yet keep looking for more, that whole more topic. So the last question was, and hopefully it'll help us launch into maybe a couple of minutes from each of you about suggestions for successful proposal topics for this coming year. I think you've suggested some of them already, but I think maybe framing it as questions would be helpful. A minute for each one of you. Val, go first. What are some questions?
Okay, successful proposal. So I know I was going to turn that over to you, Susan. So I'm not all that prepared.
I'll talk about that after these 2 minutes.
I know. Okay. But what I did do is I feel like, I don't know, when you're doing a proposal, there is the little 500-word blurb that tells you are situating your conversation in a discipline. I mean, evaluation use, it's a marker for how different we are from other disciplines. So our concern about that topic and the literature and all of the work we've done over years, that sets us apart from just being some other social science discipline where we do cross, right? I mean, we are always represented in all of these, as Michael Scriven talked about, as a transdiscipline. So I went back and I thought, if we have new people, and there are many people being hired, that's one thing that I keep seeing. There's a lot of job opportunities, especially in government, to hire people, and I'm not sure how fundamentally schooled they are in our discipline, okay, which I will, so I feel like there were quick study ways that you need to kind of catch up and demonstrate where you fit and where you're going to depart, where you're going to grow our knowledge base. And then then of course you have to read Michael's books, right? But aside from that, we had some 30-year retrospective from Gene King and Marv Alkin. And when you look at influence, you've got to, catch Karen's article, the start out article in the year 2000 in the NDE, right? And then we have more other brand new legacy types of articles that I was looking just last night on the intersection of Indigenous evaluation, culturally responsive evaluation. We've grown in those areas. And then there was another one from Rodney Hobson, representing, we have many cultures within our culture. I think evaluation is a culture, but there are many other cultures within us. And we cross these areas, and the way, in terms of a proposal, I don't know, I look forward to learning from all of you who are here today and interested in actually, trying to develop a proposal to present to the conference. So I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Michael?
I would urge people to think about, within your own arenas of expertise, as John suggested, how are issues of who is heard and how they're heard important within those arenas, and how you connect them to other places. For example, thinking about from a systems perspective, Charmaine and I have been working with some organizations, including Minnesota Humanities, which is trying to work on structural and systemic systems racism, and how to talk to people about their experiences, not with the traditional outcomes and projects and programs, but their experiences with systemic racism, what the language of that is, how to help community people express their experiences of what gets called in the jargon micro racism or microaggression, the language that we used. One of the sessions at this conference I was just at was on food insecurity, and there were a number of really excellent presentations on it. But my reaction is, I don't know of a person in the world who would just talk about hunger as food insecurity. Anybody, I mean, it's hunger, it's starvation, it's not having enough food. And asking people about their food insecurity is not likely to be resonating with their experience. And, we've got massive starvation, massive hunger, malnutrition. Let's call it what it is, not food insecurity. So that the language, the way in which we communicate with people, draw on that in your own arenas. What voices haven't been heard? What does it mean to amplify voices? What does it mean to empower, for them to experience empowerment through evaluation within your own arenas? And what are the challenges to doing that?
Thank you. Let's go into, Charmaine, if you'd move on to the next screen. I want to hold some of these ideas and come back to them when we work into our breakout groups. But to build on the conversation, we did a short survey with our TIG members, and we only had a 40, so that's a qualifier here of respondents. But one of the things we were trying to find out was, first of all, questioning. Again, going back to the mission statement, have we shifted? This mission statement hasn't been changed, I don't believe, since the very beginning. Value, Michael, you guys could, Karen could help me understand that better. I think people like the sort of mom and apple pie feeling. It's basically the majority find it helpful in some way, but it's not enough. People had in their comments about really concrete to help people prepare proposals as well as they would like. So on the next screen, we probed on what are specific topics that you'd be interested in when you attend the conference from our TIG? What would be proposals that resonate with you? So AI got about 38%, DEI got 61, systems thinking. We've been talking about all three of those terms, and the fourth one as well, with global perspectives. So I think, though, putting it into those kinds of baskets, along with, as Michael was encouraging you to be, recognizing your context and putting it in that space, and these important questions that are coming out, I think are some of the things that'll be really, really important for us. On the next screen, I wanted to just explore something with you, because AEA is going through yet another shift. And so we have 60 TIGs right now, and it's getting to be a problem for scheduling we have 2,000 less members than we had before the pandemic. So that cuts down on, as past treasurer of AEA, I'm alert to the financial issues, as well as some, how it translates back into decision-making. So you're going to be asked to identify, your preferred TIG, and when you're submitting your proposal, you've got to come up with a title and an abstract, and you have a relevance statement as well. And then you're going to be asked to go through 14 kind of questions. And I just want to cue you, and they're the typical stuff, but two of them are, I just wanted to expand on here. And one was, it's going to ask you about what competencies, evaluator competencies from the 2018 competencies that were approved by AEA, does your proposal address? Do not say all of them, please. And the same question is, which of the guiding principles are highlighted in your proposal? Please don't say all of them either. In at least for our review process that we're doing, we want you to just highlight this. It makes it easier to group our program. And the final offering I have in terms of proposals is what we're trying to do ahead of time, and we're going to have more opportunities to do this going forward. But the reason for the breakouts are to propose together as a group. The least amount of acceptance for proposals is for individual proposals. If you can team together, around some sort of those are just 4 examples of broad themes, but things that we've been talking about, whether it's wicked problems or influence or, this enhanced use, justness, all of those kinds of things that resonate in your field, or even if you have a broader perspective across multiple sectors, those are the kinds of things that are going to get accepted. So I'm encouraging you, in the breakout rooms, to try to collaborate and find kindred souls that might help you write something. I just wanted, this is not to terrorize people, but this is one of the 10 clusters. We are embedded in the largest proposed cluster, which is education foundations and methodology. I just highlighted us in red just so you could see that how they're going to manage a cluster like this, I have no idea. And they're still working it out. But I just wanted you to be aware that these others that are in the other 2 columns are the names of the other clusters. And then if they have links, so we'll be sharing this PowerPoint. You can just click the links and then go and see where other homes are. And as you can see, our topic cuts across a lot of these. And that's the last thing that we're going to be asking you probably is, would you like your session co-sponsored? And I think this is part of the power of our group. We are able to do that. And we're going to work harder now that we're back as a more organized group with a leadership team to go forward and do that. Okay, the last is the breakout sessions. And
Wait.
Jennifer? Oh, yes, Karen.
Could I ask just a really concrete question? Because I'm in the midst of working on a proposal. And one of the frustrations with the site is that it won't let you scroll through and see what's coming until you've already entered your statement. So I was working on the relevance statement and included relevance to guiding principles and competencies because I knew that was coming. But should I take that out because it's coming in a later?
No, don't worry about it. I'm just saying they're going to quantify it as well. I guess I wasn't part of that design, okay, Karen, of why they're doing it, but we'll be looking at I think the qualitative statement helps pull it together. Okay. It's like our conversation today.
Yeah, there's just sort of a checkbox.
Yes.
Okay.
No more narrative. It's checks, not okay. Any more narrative.
Okay, sorry to interrupt.
No surprises. The same as
there for a minute.
I have to say just another one for some of you that I've got some calls from people that were panicked that we won't have poster sessions. Yes, indeed, we will have poster sessions. They just neglected to include that in the flyer and in the very intro description of it. So when you're getting information from the learning side of AEA staff, know that it has all the traditional as well as some open strategies. Okay, so Jennifer, you're on.
So one of the goals of the webinar, in addition to providing some information and kicking off our year, was to create opportunities, create some space for you all to collaborate on some of these topics that are kind of trending as they relate to evaluation, use, and influence. Given some of the comments today, we've added a fifth room on polarization and misuse. So I've included links in the chat that you can then click on, and hopefully that could be kind of like scratch paper to kind of jot some ideas, and also include your contact information. And hopefully the goal is after a few minutes, you've decided, yeah, let's team up on this topic. It seems really interesting. And then spend the next couple of weeks developing a proposal. So I'm going to go ahead and open breakout rooms.
Can I wait just a sec? Okay. Just to let people know that we also, if we run out, I think because we wanted to have 20 minutes for this, if you write any questions, we'll follow up with them after this if you put it into the chat. And we also encourage you to be reviewers of the proposals. And if you are interested, just email me and we'll send you information.
Yeah, and I've also reduced it to 15 minutes given the time. So go ahead and click on a link for the room that you think you'll join. And I am opening the rooms now. You should be able to pick whichever room seems the most interesting or most relevant to your work.
Okay, and there'll be a facilitator in each group, I guess, and then people will at least capture a summary and then we'll be able to follow up. How do we want to?
I'm seeing which rooms are getting.
Oh, you're on mute.
We can't do that final kind of sharing together, but as a wrap up, I just wanted to encourage you to submit a proposal. How many of each of the groups came up with some ideas for proposals or any collaboration? I'm just curious. Okay, Jennifer, yours did?
Yeah, we had a couple. We didn't get to finish up the conversations, but hopefully we continue them through the link for the document.
Oh, fabulous. Okay. And I think I was in one on the sort of the whole idea of what polarities, and they're thinking about something. So that'll be cool. And then to wrap it up, you're going to have, it's one of those awkward kind of registration things again for the proposal. Just be patient with it, but you may have to create a new account for your proposal. That is not your AEA account, but just go to the link and you get started. And then I think assuming, you know which TIGs you want to do this in. Some of the things that we talked about today are things that would overlap or co-sponsor with others. And then the guiding principles that we talked about and the evaluator competencies. And the last thing I just wanted to show was the resources to be able to follow up. These are the leadership team for this year, and they have their emails here. So just so you know, we're trying to everything because there are about 600 people in this TIG. So it's a lot of proposals to review. It's a lot of other, like just the whole idea of webinars, Charmaine and Jennifer and Minji, our co-webmasters. Joaquina couldn't join us today, but she's working with me at the chair level. And then we have at the co-chair, co-program level, Maura and Hope. So we try to represent different parts of the country and different sectors. So hopefully, you can find somebody to connect with if you have any pressing problems before your proposal. And we hope to just continue to have more webinars like this, but give us your feedback. Any other comments for the good of the order?
Just a thank you, Susan, for convening all of this. And it's been very helpful, and I appreciate being invited. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, have a wonderful day and look forward to more talks.
Till
Bye.
next time. Yeah.
Till next time. And this will be recorded.